welcome to another Tales from a Professional Nerd. My name is BryanCPSteele, and I will be your nerd today and any other day that you watch one of my silly little shows. Hey everybody! I hope everything is wonderful and well in your neck of the woods on this. I believe this goes live on May 1st, so welcome to May, which means that I get the express honor of congratulating the April comment raffle winner from all of the April videos. For those of you who don't know, the comment raffle is if you are involved in a comment thread, if you are the originator of a comment thread in one of the YouTube videos that I put up in a current month, I put you in right before the first episode of a new month into the patent pending Bryan Steele Randominator, and it shoots out. It's just an Excel document. It shoots out one of the threads to let me know that person won the comment raffle. And the comment raffle basically is I put together a package of random stuff from around the studio that I've gotten from sponsors, from friends, from my own collection. Sometimes I'll put a little fun note in there for you, but it is a way for me to thank the subscribers for all their engagement and their conversation and their being a part of this YouTube journey that I have taken. And this particular month, April 2026, on episode 319, so just last week, that would be I almost just said at Dan Elmore. It's at Dan Elmore 2783. You are the April comment raffle winner. Yay! So when this goes live, I will go to that comment and I will add the information, the how to reach out to me to get me your address so I can send you a prize pack. Dun, 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 dun. Comment raffle winners are free to put in the email when they send me their address and stuff. They're free to put in it'd be really cool, I love this aspect of gaming and I'll see what I can do. But it doesn't mean that you're not going to get a bunch of random stuff, because if I'm anything, I am chaos. So now that we've let Mr. Dan Elmore, now that we've let Dan Elmore 2783 know that he is the winner, let's move into today's topic. So last week's episode, I commented on the fact that my wife had come up in her D&D game. She had come up with a way to write out characters when they are missing. Momentarily, briefly, and I had mentioned that it was not my favored way because it causes some interesting in-game meta stuff that raises questions and eyebrows, and sometimes you just kind of have to just sort of ignore it. And the more I thought about it, is you have to do that pretty much anytime someone is missing from the table. Sorry about that brief interruption. My new keyboard has a very sensitive key right by the edge, and I have since moved it a little further away from my hands. I don't know if you know this about me, but I talk with my hands and I gesticulate a lot, and I reached down and gesticulated just a little too far, and I bumped that key, and it killed my camera. So I didn't kill it. Obviously, you're back, but it did interrupt the video, and I have to go back. I had to go back and rewatch the last couple seconds to see where I was. And what I was saying, the reason for this video is that Natalie had created a way in her game to write characters out if the player is going to be absent from the show, or from the game. And that is something that is a necessary evil that we all have to deal with. And my knee-jerk reaction to her method, which we'll talk about when I get to it, is that it creates some interesting meta problems because it's a story-based reason. And the more I think about it, is anytime a player is absent from from the thing. Anytime a player is absent, you always have to kind of meta your way through it. You've got to squint. You've got to, tell all the players, hey, this is the thing that's happening. And so I think there's varying levels of it and varying degrees of how much meta is meta for your table. How far along are you willing to just go, this is it, or are you going to try and cook in some narrative and make it a thing? Which we'll talk about more when I go through the 5 ways. And these 5 ways are by no means the end all be all or the all exhaustive, all encompassing concepts. These are just 5 good starters, similar to what I did last week with the 5 tips for home freelancing. What we'll call this the beginning of my series of 5. And you know what? In fact, put in the comments if there's a series of 5 you'd like to see. Who knows? Maybe if I do enough of these, I can create a playlist within the channel. Ooh, playlists! But this was spawned out of sometimes a DM is stumped because something happens. Whether a player is sick, maybe a player needs to take a prolonged hiatus. Maybe... there's a dozen different reasons why you might need to deal with an empty chair at the table. And it is not always as easy as just saying, well, get a new character for that spot. Because sometimes they're integral to the game. Sometimes that player is just gone for a session. Maybe they're sick. Maybe there's some double booking. It happens where adults... we've always said that the big bad evil guy of most games is actually the calendar or scheduling, especially once you get to a certain age. When you become of a certain age, see all this white, every one of these white whiskers is a failed game because of absence. That's not true. It's because I have teenagers, but it's I want to say that. It is just something that you have to deal with, and it's something that you, as a DM and a game master or a game host, even if you're not the master, is you have to deal with these things. You have to get through them. You've got to find ways that it doesn't make your game come screeching to a halt. Because honestly, the ways one of the worst things to happen to a game is if it dies because you keep having to reschedule, or someone keeps missing, or you refuse to play if this one character isn't going to show up. And I've seen too many campaigns. Hell, I've had too many of my own campaigns, some that are near and dear to my heart, that have collapsed because of scheduling. And that's heartbreaking because it's an untold story. It's a book that you never finished. It's... insert other metaphor here, but at the end of the day, it is the end of fun that could have been bigger, better, and more. And we play these things for that reason. So I think that it is healthy and helpful to have ways already kind of in your brain, ready to go, on how you will handle when a player can't be there. And obviously there's a certain degree of if one player is missing or 2 players out of a 6-player game, or you can have your own kind of house rule of if only one person's gonna be gone, we forge forward because you're a 4-player game, you can still get by with 3 players. You're a 6-player game, you can get by with 4 players easy. So you're like, all right, if 2 people are missing, that's not a big enough chunk to worry about the meta. Let's do this. Obviously, you could have a house rule that says we play no matter what, the story goes on. And in fact, one of my methods today covers that a little bit, which we'll deal with that in a second. Overall, I think that it is, like I said, it is just something that you have to deal with. It's something that happens, and it gets harder the older we go and the more games we get into. The more scheduling there is. It is what it is. So rather than throwing your hands in the air, being frustrated with it, and getting potentially upset with players for missing, or thinking that they're not, that they're hurting your story or whatever, set the tone, realize that you have a way around it, and implement it. And here are 5 ways to hopefully implement this kind of stuff into your game. I'm going to take a quick sip. Not a sponsor. I was just up late, so I need the extra caffeine. All right. So, I think we're going to deal... These are in no particular order. It is not like a number 1 to number 5 or anything like that. They're in no particular order. They're just 5 thoughts that I wanted to put down. I think the number 1 way that I've used over my 30 some odd years of role playing, the way I've always done it is we call it our tongue-in-cheek way of dealing with it is called the Orb of Confusion. Now, it's not a real magic item. I mean, it probably is in someone's game somewhere, but it's a tongue-in-cheek term saying that player, that their character, the player that can't be there, that character is holding the Orb of Confusion, meaning that they're present, they're walking with you, they're exploring the dungeon with you, they're crossing the same bridge as you are, they are, they go along with the rest of the cast of the party, the rest of the characters, and they are exempt from any like saving throws or anything like that. They're just kind of there but not there. And unless you directly need to do something with them, like that character was carrying the key to this door, we have to get into that door. The game master obviously can make the final call as to yes, they hand you the key, or yes, they cast, everybody gets passed without trace, because that's something that they always do. It's up to the game master to make the call of whether or not their character does or interacts in any way. Otherwise, the Orb of Confusion just basically states that the player is there, they're not conversing, they're not talking, they're not doing anything. That character is just sort of a cardboard stand-up in the corner. An unbelievably great visual version of this is how in the Gamers movie, the Gamers, I believe it's Gamers 2, I think it's Darkness Rising. Amazing, by the way, from or was it Orpheus Entertainment, or Zombie Orpheus? I can't remember I think it's Orpheus. But Gamers 2, Darkness Rising, there is a character who the player is late to the session. He's never there. They make a point of referencing that, and the player's name is Mark, and Mark's barbarian is just kind of in the corner. He's just sort of so all of these scenes, spoiler, all of these scenes where the party is doing stuff, at some point someone references the fact that Mark is still there. Mark's character is just kind of off to the corner, and so like the camera will pan from all the action over to where his character is just sort of standing there looking at a tree, or standing in the corner looking at a rock. And that is the perfect definition of the Orb of Confusion. Is the character is there, you've more or less forgotten that they exist, but they're there. And then there's a really great scene where Mark does show up super late to the session, and is like, "Am I there? Is there combat?" And when he gets there, they're like, "What do you do?" And he's like, "Well, obviously I rage." And like it pans back to this video of the things happening, and suddenly the barbarian just gonna wakes up and starts frothing, and so that's how the Orb of Confusion works. Is the guy is there, everybody ignores him until the DM remembers that he's there, or until the players go, "Hey, what about Mark's character?" That's in a nutshell what the Orb of Confusion does. They're present, but not present until they have to be, and it is completely up to the dungeon master to decide things. Now, this is particularly important because it does mean that the players aren't doing things with him. They're asking the DM, "Hey, can he do this? Can he make this a thing?" And this leads into, actually, I think probably the second way of dealing with an absent character. We'll bleed right into that, because they're related in the way that the Orb of Confusion requires sort of the situation to prompt the DM, the situation to prompt the players to go, hey, what about Mark's character? We're going to use, so the actor who plays Mark, Chris, please pardon me for using Mark as my go-to for this. But I think you're going to be like my go-to for this whole the whole spiel. Mark is my go-to absent character or absent player. So sorry, bud. He's a friend of mine, so you know what? I may send him this video and be like, "Hey, you came up in conversation a lot, by the way." So the Orb of Confusion, to sum that bullet point up, is it allows the story to continue. It eliminates the hard questions if something were to happen. Of, you know, the player characters get on a pirate ship and sail away, like it's a big time jump during a session or something along those lines, and then the next session comes, Mark shows up and goes, so did I get on the boat with you guys? You know, I wasn't at the last session. It allows them to just assume that he was along for the ride. Meaning that you don't have to have a special side session, or you don't have to quickly describe away some big magic thing that brings this character who missed an entire sailing ship, session, that's now hundreds of miles away. How do I get with them? The Orb of Confusion is the simplest, in my opinion, the simplest and easiest way to keep a player or keep a character attached to what the party is doing with the least amount of well, we got to ignore this for the sake of the story. So that's the Orb of Confusion, which leads us to, I think, a greater version of the a Orb of Confusion, the legendary version, where I just call it NPCing the player, or NPCing the character, where that puts literally the character sheet in the hands of the game master. He puts it behind the screen, if you're using a screen, I'm being figurative, and turns that player character into a non-player character for the duration of the session. Now, the reason why that works is because obviously the dungeon master, or the game master, is running the show. Like, they're running the narrative. They're keeping everything moving and everything going, and they know how the story is supposed to unfold. Meaning that player's actions, reactions, discussions, use of abilities can all be used to further that story along. Now, this is the absolutely most seamless way to put a player character in the story when their player is not around, because the dungeon master is going to be, is the narrator, the trustworthy third person voice. So they know how to use that character's assets. They've seen the character the whole time. Obviously, unless you have a game where has revolving dungeon masters or something, they know more or less the manner, or they should know the mannerisms of the character. They should know what they do, what they don't do, and that will allow, it should help frame what the dungeon master would do if that character suddenly becomes an NPC. And for that one session, they can kind of abide by that. If they know that character would never stand by the harming of an innocent, or, nope, torture is right out. Or maybe that character again and again and again has said, I am a freedom fighter, I break all chains, I am the smasher of shackles, shackle smasher. That's a really cool name for a bad guy. or a good guy, or a bad guy who thinks he's a good guy. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Ears melt. I'm going to write that down somewhere. During edits, I'm going to write that down. But like, if that DM knows that the player or that the character is always that way, and then they go into that session and there's a bunch of captives and there's a bunch of, prisoners, and the rest of the players are like, all right, we're way too hurt. We need to just go. This is an opportunity for the Dungeon Master to really flex what they know about the character and go, yeah, you know what? Mark has always said that, Shackle Smasher will never abide by someone being in bondage. So he's gonna go pick a fight with the slavers. He's gonna go try and free these people. You guys are coming with, right? You're gonna help out your buddy. And yeah, it could cause the other players to go, well, we could try and convince Mark to not do that. But the DM knows what that character has been all about. So it's unlikely that if as long as the player stays constant and the continuity remains, this would make perfect sense. Basically, the DM gets to say at the next time that DM talks to Mark and goes, hey, this is what happened in the last session. The goal is that when the DM kind of downloads the information to Mark and says, okay, you did this, the party did this, you helped with this, you cast this spell, you did drink your potion of blah, 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 or whatever, that the goal would be that Mark looks at that DM and goes, yeah, that sounds like me. Oh, yeah, okay, that's cool. You be excited about what happened while they weren't at the controls. So that, I think, is probably not, it is definitely the one that the players will feel the least of that character's absence, in my opinion. But it also, you have to be a very skilled DM, and you've got to be aware of what your players are. You've got to be an attentive DM, because you're basically telling yourself you've got a constant NPC. It is very easy to ignore an NPC that you've got in your pocket. So you gotta sort of put them in a place in your mind and in the story that a player would still be would be in that role doing that thing, but obviously you want to shine the light primarily on the players that are there. Just don't forget that Mark is hanging out with you. Which actually, again, perfect. Dun, 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 dun. Bring us right over to I think the third version of dealing with this is a version of the NPC. I call it the understudy. The understudy method means that one of the other players, every player at the table, at the beginning during session 0, or if you have like an email chain or a Facebook message thing or a Discord or whatever, every player should name someone else at the table who is their understudy. And that means it is someone at the table that they trust mechanically to and a little bit of role play to do what their character would do. Kind of what I was just talking about with the DM being an NPC, of orchestrating the NPC. Take that, basically that, away from the DM and put it to a specific player to a lesser degree. Obviously, that player is already going to have their primary character in that, and they're going to be spending most of the time in that character's role doing that character's stuff. But as the understudy, you know what that other character is capable of. You know their powers. You know their equipment. You know to keep their secrets. Like it is very much. It's almost like you have an alternate character that you can kind of go to. And there's a I won't even say it's not even an unspoken agreement. It's being the understudy for another player. It's a straight up spoken agreement. You will do your best not to get my character killed. You will do your best not to spend a bunch of my permanent resources that aren't going to come back. Don't immediately get my character and go, all right, well, I'm going to drink this potion and drink that potion and use this scroll. And because that's stuff that the regular player has earned. That's that regular player has done all these things, and coming back to a character and finding out that, oh yeah, well, I got your hand cut off, I drank all of your healing potions, oh, that potion of cloud giant strength that you were saving for a rainy day, I totally used it and we dominated a goblin fight. You know, being someone's understudy means respecting the character and hopefully giving it back to the player on the next session with as little damage and permanent change as possible. Now, it also means taking good notes. That's the other half of being someone's understudy, is taking notes, letting them know what the character did, and the last thing you want to do is hand someone the reins to someone's character back to them, and not tell them, oh yeah, I forgot, we did have a really cool scene in the tavern, and I to help ease things through, your character got into a drinking contest and totally got hammered and ended up shacking up with insert random, tavern patron. Because that's something the DM later on, fast forward 7 or 8 sessions, 10 sessions, whatever, they may forget who was actually at the helm at the time for that character, and then suddenly introduce, oh yeah, hey, here's little Mary Jo and your brand new son that you didn't know you had, and then that player's like, wait, who's Mary Jo? Why do I have a kid? Because they weren't told that they had this, late night tavern dalliance with Mary Jo. It's just, you want to take notes of all the stuff that happened directly to them. Make sure you don't spend any of their permanent resources, and try and avoid doing any real permanent damage. Now that third fact has a little bit of weight to put on the DM side of things, and that, I think, is a standing rule of, you just don't kill someone's character when they're not there. It's rude. It is, as a DM, it is rude. Now, obviously, sometimes situations happen, and unless you are the DM that wants to fudge dice or change the outcome because you're like, I don't want to kill Mark's character when Mark's not here, is you want to try and avoid that situation, because you also don't want to put yourself in a situation where, well, the rest of the party is completely decimated, they're all unconscious, 2 of them are dead, but Mark, he's at full hit points because I refused to hit him. So there's obviously some wiggle room that you've got to come into, but it does mean that, like, when the big bad lich is like, I cast power word kill, you don't hit Mark. you aim it at someone at the table, because not only is he not there to really participate in the potential death of his character, but also it's an epic moment. Those sort of save or die moments, those sort of, like, make these 2 saving throws, your character has this issue. Those are epic story moments. Those are things that someone might, if they fail, that's something that might stick with them for a long time, telling their other role-playing buddies. They get onto a podcast and someone says, well, I've never had a character ever been hit with a power, I've never had a character killed by power word kill. It's such a stupid spell. Anybody here? Has that happened? Mark? You want to make sure that those epic moments, whether they're good or bad, are something that can be experienced by the players who are at the table. They don't. It's the same reason why, in my opinion, and that may be another video for another day, is a no-no with NPCs. Is you never have your NPCs do the killing blow. You never have the NPCs be able to do something that the player characters can't, therefore making them that guy's obviously the only reason, unless, of course, it is the only reason that they're actually there. You hire I'm about ready to get on a tangent. This is going to be definitely a topic for a video, maybe even next week. Is 5? Yeah, there we go. 5 NPC no-nos. Perfect. We know what next week's video are. But please, still put it in the comments if you have any other 5s that you want to see me do. Yeah, so to get back on the topic, the understudy, I think, is one of my favorites. The Orb of Confusion is easily my favorite because, I want to be able to focus on the players that are there that can make it. But I do like the collective agency that an understudy program at the table creates, because it also helps put the players, it helps mesh the players even more with each other's characters and each other's stories and each other's abilities. It creates a little more of a well-oiled team as far as like the players are concerned, because it does mean that they are more inclined to understand and care about what's going on if they understand and know more about each other's characters. If a player is completely and utterly self-absorbed and they only care about their character and they only care about winning and beating the bad guy with their character's stroke of the sword, then they're probably missing out a little bit on the collective story and a lot of the fun interactions that can happen. It's not a board game. You're not there to win D&D. You're there to enjoy yourself, have fun, help each other have fun, and see the end of this really awesome story. And the understudy program, in my opinion, makes that a thing. So there you go. Number three is I think this is one that requires a lot of meta-ing, if depending on the scenario. And I call that the busy signal. So for those of us that are old and remember home phones, before everybody's phone was a cell phone, if you called somebody and they were on the line and they didn't have call waiting or anything, you would get a busy tone. Burp, 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 burp. Basically letting that caller know, no, sorry, they're already busy, leave a voicemail, that kind of thing. The busy signal in the case of an absent player basically means that the DM comes up with, has something ready to go, has a pre-recorded message, so to speak, of how a particular player or how a particular character can be made busy for that particular session. And it doesn't mean that they're not there. It doesn't mean that the character isn't around. It just means, well, I mean, it could be. It just means that there is something that is keeping them from being a part of the current session. And in the case of, like, let's say it's a session, let's say it's a dungeon crawl. It's a dungeon crawl that is just a lot of combat. In this particular session, it's going to be like a trap and a bridge and a chamber full of hobgoblins. If I know that going into it as a DM, I know that I can have either a minor cave-in, like a small rock slide, or a pitfall trap that has a character slide down to a different place. Or in the case of a really big combat, you could almost say, that there's another little mini combat, maybe that particular character in the chamber full of hobgoblins. There's 8 hobgoblins against the 4 players that showed up, and then there's another 2 hobgoblins that are off on the corner during this big other battle that are constantly fighting with Mark's character. Mark's character is going to be held up for the duration, from the moment you roll initiative until the moment that the combat is over. He's off fighting his own hobgoblins, and maybe you give him a couple of points of damage to, you take it, you at the end of the combat, you look at the average damage that everybody suffered, and you go ahead and apply that to Mark, because that shows that he was in the combat. He had to use some stuff. He got stabbed a couple times, but he dealt with his bad guys because the team won. The party overcame its bad guys. So that's the busy signal for that particular session. Let's say you're in a really deep a city session. It's going to be a very deep role play, a lot of talk with the noble council, or whatever the case may be. The busy signal for Mark at that session could be he gets called away by his guild. A family member shows up and says, I desperately need your help. And then, the other players can go, well, we want to help you, Mark. That's when the busy signal has a slight alteration, a little bit of that meta shift that says the family member says, no, this is private. It's dealing with my kid. He knows Mark really well. Whatever. You come up with a story. The reason why that character can get pulled away for a very short amount of time, one session, to deal with whatever familial issue that is, whatever the guild boss needs to talk to him, or his church says, it's a holy sacrament today, I need you for 12 hours to ring the church bell every hour, or whatever. You come up with your own busy signal to pull that character away, and you fit it into the session, so that way the other players, while they do still have to kind of wink a little bit of, hey, we're trying to save the world here, and you're getting pulled off by, little cousin Stevie's gout, the players understand the reason why you're doing it is because you needed a busy signal. And so unless you move your story into a way that suddenly your busy signal is a problem, a meta issue, then it should be able to, everyone goes, okay. And there will always be exceptions. There will always be situations where a player, their character is just unforgiving and is like, maybe that particular character has something to do in their background of they're an orphan and they don't understand the concept of family, or maybe it's the opposite. They're a drow that came from a seriously abusive family, that the idea of love in the household is anathema, and they then look at the game master and go, Mark, or rather Mark's character, I'm not going to let you go waste your day. And then maybe you change the busy signal. Maybe the busy signal is that Mark goes, I have to do this, I'm oath sworn, or there's ways to make them absent that can hopefully fit into the story without creating too much of a splash in the pond, so to speak. I think what's important, though, is you make sure that your busy signal for that character matches not only what the character's decisions would be, but also what the session's going to be. We'll use the same things. The dungeon crawl, crosses the bridge, deals with a trap, goes into the hobgoblin fight, and right before the crosses the bridge, cousin Stevie shows up and says, my gout's acting up, I need your help. Mark's character, that's not going to fit real well. You can't pull someone away. You're 150 feet underground in some dungeon. You can't have your busy signal be, well, Mark's going to go to the surface and go do a thing. It's more along the lines of Mark's going to be doing a thing here. This is what I meant by a trap door or a landslide or something that can allow Mark to show back up, but narratively removes him from the situation. That's the best part about a busy signal, is the players are aware that it is a momentary, temporary thing. It should never be something where the character's life is legitimately in danger. Like maybe after the landslide or the pitfall or whatever, Mark's character shouts up, hey, I'm fine, I'm not hurt, there's a walkway here, it leads in the same direction you guys are going, I'll catch up with you later. Now, you might have a player that is like, well, I'm not going to let Mark go off alone, who knows what'll happen, where he might fight the meta. Like everybody knows why the DM is doing this, but that particular player might be like, well, no, there's no way I'm going to let Mark's character run off on his own in this thing. I'm going with him. That's when the DM needs to make a decision of, do you just kind of put your foot down and go, hey, no, this is to let's keep the rest of the party together, or do you let this other wayward player kind of create a side scene and split the party, possibly taking them out of the main part of the session for a while because they're walking through this side tunnel with Mark. There's always ups and downs to everything. But hopefully, in the case of a busy signal, the players will recognize why the DM is doing what they're doing and go, okay, whatever he's dealing with will be done in a session because Mark will be back. So that's the busy signal, and I think it is not a great way of handling things, but it is doable. It is far more doable if you plan ahead. If you know that Mark's not going to show up several days in advance. If it's a no-show on the spot, that's a lot harder to deal with. Which actually brings us to our fifth and final one, our number 5 today. And I call it the poof. The poof is the method in which something unexplainable, magical, weird, absolutely chaotic randomness removes the character from the situation and can insert them again at any time. This is really only doable in high magic campaigns or high sci-fi where something can be teleported away or whatever. Basically, you have to be in a situation where you can have the unexplainable, where a break of reality can take place. And in that case, it is, the Fae have come to take you away, and they'll bring you back at their leisure. Maybe you're playing in a game where the gods are extremely fickle, and this kind of stuff happens and is well known to happen. That the other day during the Samhain celebration, and everybody was getting drunk and having a great time. Mayor Steve just vanished in a puff of glittery smoke, and he didn't show back up again for 2 weeks. And when he showed back up, he let us know that he went to Candyland and has cotton candy stuck in his hair or whatever. The poof method is the one that does in fact require the most player forgiveness, because it is very easy for a player to go, especially in a high magic game where you might be able to teleport yourself, or you might be able to research other planes or dimension door or whatever. If the character just vanishes, even if it is a regular thing that happens, the other players could, in theory, put the brakes on the entire narrative. Just stop everything you're doing and go, I want to know what's happening to my buddy. I need to go save him. Let's go do these things. This is the one that requires the most player interaction, because player meta forgiveness, because they have to straight up recognize that this is happening for an out of game reason. Move the story along. And just like the other methods, there is a level of, okay, we let's not beleaguer the point. Let's not sit and argue about what has happened. Simply move on and find the next major part of the plot. And you do have to you have to kind of make sure that that's your goal, and also maybe even talk to your game master and be like, hey, can we make sure that there is a full reason for this? Can we get a little deeper? Can we go a better explanation? Even if that explanation is the gods are fickle and they do fun things, or in the case of let's say you're playing Vampire the Masquerade game, changelings do what changelings do. So you do have to go ahead and make that call if you're going to use the poof method. You have to make the call that is there going to be a meta reason behind it, or are you just kind of telling your players, nah, this is going to happen, please don't make this a scene? Because again, your players will understand either way. You just have to, as a DM, you've got to come to that realization that this is something that, if you don't address and just ask them to ignore or something along those lines, it might turn into a meta thing. It might turn into a thing that is not what you have planned for that day's session. And the last thing you want to do is make the player who had to miss feel bad because their absence derailed the session further than would it have been if they were just standing in a corner. So, again, none of these methods are bad. None of these methods are necessarily the best. It just depends on you, your game, your table, the level of confidence and communication you have with the characters, and maybe your ability to improv what happens in the case of like the NPC method, or even to a certain degree the understudy method, because it's it's extra work. I think the best way, obviously, is as a player, try not to miss sessions. It's unavoidable, but that's the best thing, is to try and be present for these games, and that even includes be present while you're there. But hopefully, as a game master, you will have those tools in your back pocket and decide which ones are the best for you, and what's the best for your session, and at the end of the day, also what's best for your players. Because good old Mark, he might be absolutely on board with being randomly taken away by cousin Stevie with his gout, but it could also be that Mark is like, no, I would much rather just be there and not doing anything. I would rather be the strong, silent guy in the corner than so I can run in at the beginning of the next session, blood, death, vengeance, than just removed. So again, it's all anything with any role-playing game. It's all communication and the ability to talk with your players and your DM and back and forth, and the players themselves can come up with conversation between the two, and who knows, maybe just one of these methods is not going to be the best for you. Maybe you need to adopt one for one, and this character, this wild mage sorcerer is totally fine with the poof method, and it's completely normal because wild surges happen. But maybe there's also a character that's like, no, I would really, I know that my healing is what keeps this party alive. Please, if I'm going to miss a session, let Mark use my character if I'm going to miss a session, because I know that he's going to let him understudy me. Or I don't trust these goofballs with my super private secret, all my secret sauce on my character. They don't know that I'm a secret demon worshiper, and I don't want anyone to know that. So I would love for you, DM, to NPC me while we play, because I really need you to make sure that I keep healing the party, that I keep staying on the up and up, because I need them to make sure that I am indispensable to them at every possible moment, even when I'm not there, because otherwise they'll find out that I worship Mephistopheles, and all hell will break loose, no pun intended. So, all in all, I hope these 5 tips helped. Use one, use them all, use maybe a little bit of both, sprinkle in, whatever you need to do. But at the end of the day, it's your table, it's your choice. But I hope my 30 some odd years of doing this might help you in yours going forward. If that is the only reason that you were at this video is for those tips, and you don't care about the weekend Bryan, you can now go leave comments, like, share, subscribe, do all the things. But if you are a true Tales from a Professional Nerd fan, kidding, I mean, not really, kind of. Or maybe just someone who wants to hear how I'm doing. Stick around because it's a week in Bryan. You know what? Maybe I'll make like a cool title card for the week in Bryan so people know the segment. I'm only 320 episodes into this. Maybe I'd figure out how this stuff works. All right, so the week in Bryan. On a personal level, things are good. Things are good. The weather has been weird. We've had sunshine days, cold days, rainy days, tornado days. It's Indiana. Indiana in the spring is, you get more winter, you get more summer, you get floods, you get tornadoes, and you get thunderstorms like nobody's business. It's weird. If you like weather, like if you like adverse and wicked weather, Midwest Indiana and Illinois in the spring will give you your full. Let me tell you. I've been making sure to get back to the gym. It's a little harder for me right now because 2 of my gym days are days that I have to drive my son into school, and his timing is not right. If I take him to school, I can't get a full gym session in because I get back too late to really get a bunch of work in, and I'm deadlining hard. We'll get to that in a minute. So it is what it is. I took for granted. I really did. My life changed so dramatically when Connor got his driver's license and and access to his Jeep, because I could just high five him over breakfast and be like, all right, I'm heading out to the gym, have fun at school, knowing that he was going to get there. And now that we are a 1-car household, so I can't even just like loan him the keys and be like, all right, go, because then we'd be stuck here. And then I can't go to the gym anyway. So there's that. The repairs on his Jeep are expensive, and he is a teenager with a part-time job, which he's going to a new part-time job starting next week. So fingers crossed that will turn out and be awesome. His last one was not giving him very many hours, hence why it's taking so long to get the Jeep fixed. Money is always an evil prospect across the board all the time, no matter what. It always sucks, unless you have too much of it, and then you suck for having too much. Sorry, my anti-billionaire stance is coming out. It's just the mornings have been a little harder. My stepdaughter works very early in the morning and also does not have a car, but lives in an apartment with their boyfriend and their friend, and it is not. It's just there's a lot of driving. There's a lot of morning driving for Bryan, and because of that, my gym sessions have been shorter, but I am still going. I'm still getting there. I'm making sure that it doesn't fall out of my routine, mostly because I know that if it does, the last time that I let something get in the way, and the last time it was my back injury, or when my hip was messed up, or when my arm had tennis elbow, and it's very easy to go to when I claw back those like 2 hours, hour and a half back to do things around the house, to even to get a chore in before I go to work, or get the extra work in. It is very easy to go, man, that feels so good to have all that extra time back, and I'm not hot and sweaty, and I'm not exhausted, but I also am like, and I'm not doing anything to maintain my health. So I need to keep going, even on days where I know it's going to be a short gym trip, if only to keep that in my routine. Because eventually Connor will no longer have to go to school in the morning. He's only got a couple more weeks left of his junior year. Eventually, Asa will have a way to get to work on their own, or start taking the bus, because they live right next to a bus stop. eventually those things will get back to being normal. And when that happens, I want to make sure that my brain set is still go to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Go to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the occasional Tuesday if you're feeling like weights. Like you get that, keep that going, because otherwise I will fall out of it and I will gain a bunch more weight, and I have not lost enough to not have any backslide that I suffer from not going to the gym is going to be a backslide and push forward. It's gonna be a complete loss. So I just need to make sure, and the whole point, I want to lose weight, but primarily it's about heart health. It's about making sure that my numbers come back good. I will probably always be a big guy. I've been a big guy since college, but I want to make sure that the doctor looks at me and says, the only problem that I have is my weight, not you're pre-diabetic, not, oh, hey, your liver's struggling, not, so there's this thing we got to talk to you about, all of your circulation, or whatever. That's the primary reason I go to the gym. I used to go to the gym because I wanted to look buff and be all hot and smexy. Now it's just about health. I just want to make sure that I am kicking it around to keep being the professional nerd that I am and see my kid do these things. And I'm getting super in my head about stuff. So let's move on. Personal, week is a plus. Hobby-wise, I haven't done anything. In fact, I mentioned how I got my really cool light from Game Envy, and I was looking forward to trying it out. I haven't even gotten it set up yet. Here in a second, when I talk about work, you'll understand why. I need to suck it up and get some more work done in a way that I need to get that working. But right now, very busy, and the hobbying, while it is good for my stress levels, crossing off the deadlines, I think, is more so. Play. I was supposed to play in one of my buddy's D&D games this last weekend, but it got canceled. And I was supposed to have a playtest session of Secret Project, which I can't wait for you guys to know about it. I got to see the final layout copy before it goes off to the people that are going to do something with it. I know I'm vaguing, but I got to see the layout copy. It looks so good. I'm so happy. I can't wait for you guys to actually get to see it. And I can't wait to be able to discuss it and talk about it and explain why it exists and explain the thought processes behind it. Because again, I was honored that I was chosen to be part of this project, to headline this project, and I know that one half of the audience of this project are probably going to go, huh? And will need some help realizing that it was treated with love and not that it's not just a cash grab. So can't wait. Hopefully soon. Hopefully get to tell you more about it when I can. I will devote an entire episode to Secret Project when it happens. So don't you be shocked when that happens. In fact, I may very well probably do the title bar not as Secret Project. You just, for all of you loyal fans, when you'll see that that thumbnail and go, oh my god, and then like the opening thing will be like, welcome to Secret Project. You'll know. You'll be one of the people who know. But I was supposed to do a playtest, like the final playtest of Secret Project last night. But one of the playtesters is getting ready to potentially move out of the country, and had a bunch of work stuff that they had to tie up, and they were super stressed, and they were like, I just can't be involved. It's just not going to be a thing. And I didn't want them to miss the last session. It's funny coming out of the rest of the episode where I'm talking about it's okay to miss somebody, but it is the last playtest session for Secret Project, and the last thing I want to do is have one of the playtesters that's been there since the beginning to miss out on the big da-da-da, kind of like the champagne cork. So we're going to reschedule the finale at some point. Maybe it'll be after he heads off to the other place and we have to do it remote. You know, who knows? But that's really it. Apart from some video gaming, I didn't do much gaming at all this last week. I wanted to get a little bit of playtesting in for Xenogenesis with the new org rules. But unfortunately that didn't happen. And I only got one playtest session in of Warzone with a new model that is... I am very glad that Alex and I chose to start playtesting this model very early, because I know it's going to take a lot of refinement and a lot of, is this too much? Is this too little? Is it too easy? Is it killing too much? We still are a skirmish game with only 5-turn games. Is it doing enough in that 5-turn games to warrant its existence? You know, like, so there's stuff happening. We'll see. I'm hoping here in a couple of weeks my schedule will open up a little bit and I'll get some more playtesting in, but right now it's very light. Speaking of my schedule, so I've said it a couple of times that I've been deadlining hard, and I am. I am in the final stretch on my Shadowrun novel. I know you guys have been hearing me talk about it forever, but I really have been diving in with both feet for the last month and a half to make sure that I get this thing in, so John, my editor over at Catalyst, can really take a look at this beast, and we can get it through editing and get it out the door in a timely fashion. But also to give the characters who I am voicing, because they're other people's characters in this case. These are other canon characters that other people created, that have trusted me to tell part of their story. I got to make sure I get the voice right. I got to make sure that I do the things that they said they're supposed to do, that they don't do things that they can't do. Make sure that I fit it in with some of the stuff that I know about them. There's been a lot of moving parts for this, and it's coming to a close. And it feels good. It feels really good to come to the end of a manuscript anytime. But something like this, where I've been at it for so long, I am super excited to see those final words, the end at the end of the story, so to speak, because it is a calling card to these friends that I played with. It is a calling card to Shadowrun. It really is a way for me to say kind of thank you for letting me and my madness be a part of this world and shaping this world. So I'm excited to see the end of that. I am down to the last 20, 30, 35 stat blocks for the Throne World Saga sourcebook, and then when that's done, apart from ancillary adventures and stuff that need to be written, the first 3 Intergalactic Heroes sourcebook manuscripts are done. And now then it's just editing, layout, art, and they'll be ready for crowdfunding and ready to move forward. So that is the other thing I'm deadlining right now, and super excited for people to see that. I know that the Throne World book is kind of the third in the series. There's the Player's Guide, the Game Master's Guide, and then there's the Throne World source book. But Eric Nelson, one of the world builder, the kind of his title, one of his titles is World Builder over at Evil Genius, has really helped me a great deal in putting all of the connectivity, the connective tissues in Throne World together. Like, obviously the Throne World Saga is my story, but there's there's a whole lot of space between some of the benchmarks that I've created, some of the big moments I've created, but Eric has been absolutely integral in making sure that it's not just big moment, big moment, big moment. There's other stuff in between. And he's really, really good at making sure that it does feel like a lived-in world, that it does feel like it's a story in progress, but it's also one that has history. And the Throne World Saga book is really a trip down that construction method. And there is obviously there's a ton of game related stuff because it's a source book, and I'm excited for people to see the new aliens and to see all the stat blocks and see new technology and new classes and all that kind of stuff as well. But it is such an interesting feeling that, effectively, if you include its origins, its pre alteration origins as Rebel Moon. We've been working at this for over 3 years. So this has been my major in my back pocket project over at Evil Genius for over 3 years, and the last 8 months it's been my primary project at Evil Genius. And to see it get to the point where it is almost, obviously it'll never be completely hands off for me because it's my baby, but almost to the point where I can go, all right, it's in someone else's hands, is euphoric to know that it's this close to being a real boy, so to speak. Doing a new playtest session, a new playtest sheet for Warzone, getting the PDF version of the new playtest rules for the org, for Xeogenesis, worked on the outline for an adventure. I mean, I'm always busy, but overall I am getting to the point where I'm almost like 2 major deadlines are getting crossed off, and that you do not even know what that, I mean, these are multiple years worth of work that are coming to the point where, I mean, I'll never, like I said, I won't be done. I'll still have to do edits and I'll still have to, deal with the production side of things, but the creation process, years in the making, they're coming to a head. And I can't tell you how good that feels. I mean, I have. So that is the week in Bryan. Hopefully that was not too long. This video has gone pretty long, but it was a good one, I hope, and hopefully useful for some of you game masters out there. But until next week, where we are going to talk about NPC no-nos. That's what we're going to do, NPC no-nos next week. Until next time, be safe. Just wash your hands, get your shots, wear a mask, don't lick doorknobs, don't punch strangers unless they're Nazis. Just collectively, let's just try and make every room a little happier than when you get there. And it'll be all right. Until next time, have fun, play games, because you know I will. Bye, guys.